Hi, and welcome back to the course on cloud computing. Last time we covered platform as a service. Today we'll be looking into software as a service. That's a complete course on cloud computing with hands-on exercises, so we'll be posting the material on our channel. You can follow the lab exercises that we did last week about virtualization and rest of the things. So let's try to understand software as a service. The learning objectives of this chapter would be: we'll define and describe SaaS, which is software as a service. We'll list the advantages and disadvantages of SaaS solutions. Then we'll define and describe open SaaS, and we'll define and describe the mashups. We'll discuss the wide range of SaaS solutions and their providers. So in order to understand that what is software as a service is a solution model in which web browser is used to access software that resides along with the programs and the user data in the cloud. So if we are using any service which we are accessing it through the browser and we don't have any instance of it installed on our databases, on our servers or our web servers, we are using this application which is hosted by the provider, and we are paying for the service to avail the benefit of the service. So that's software as a service. Now, just to give you an example, if you're using Zoom, for example, or you have purchased Zoom for your organization for video conferencing and file sharing, etc., that's an example of software as a service. Or if we'll give an example of Microsoft Office or Office 365, every organization is paying to get some services from Microsoft Cloud, which is Office 365, and based on that they'll be able to avail the services. Now they are segregating the data of their customers with the other customers by keeping their separate databases for each customer, so that one customer cannot see the details of any other customer. So that's the main point behind software as a service. So if we'll talk about some of the advantages of software as a service, we can see that it is a reduction or elimination of the need of an on-site data center. So we will use the service which is hosted by a third party rather than installing it on our premises. Now if you'll install it on your premises, you'll have to take care about the updates, backups, security, making sure it's accessible. There are no issues with it. You have enough power supply available that if the power goes down, your services will be available. And it's an endless process where we'll have to take care of it right from the development to hosting and everything, whereas in software as a service, we'll be availing the services through the internet or through a web-based platform. Now after that, we have elimination of the need of the application administration, that we don't need to worry about how the application is, what are the functionalities and how can we add the functionalities to it. Usually the companies are getting the data from the customers and their requirements, and they are updating it. So maybe if you faced an issue, if you didn't face an issue but someone else faced an issue, they'll receive the feedback and they'll keep on fixing it in the background. You won't even feel the difference in the functionality of it, but it's constantly being checked and rectified for any sort of errors or problems which were occurred at a different customer or with yourself. It would be taken care of by the cloud service provider. Now the ability for customers to pay on demand for the software use, normally as per the user basis. Now there are lots of services which are based on the number of users or concurrent users who can use the service. If for example you are getting a license for Zoom for your own organization, you'll define that it is good, or you are planning to use it with how many employees in the organization. And your licensing fee is usually based on the number of licenses that you'll purchase with the cloud service provider. Now application processor and the data storage and scalability, etc., is completely on the service provider, because they'll have to take care of the storage, scalability, what kind of resources are required, device independent access to the key applications. So you don't have to worry about which device is it, where is it installed. For most of the web-based applications, they even have a mobile-based application which will be linked to your organization, and you'll be able to access the data of your own independent organization only. That increase in disaster recovery and business continuity, so you don't have to worry about if the application is down. But to do, you'll be able to get your data and the backup, because the cloud service providers are maintaining the data at multiple different locations. Now we have different examples of software as a service. I gave you an example of Zoom collaboration. You have TeamViewer as well, which is used for remote desktop help desk support, etc. Then we have Microsoft Office 365, and the biggest name in the SaaS is customer relationship management module, which is run by Salesforce, which is quite common, where they are taking care of all the sales and customer relationship, etc. As you can see in this picture, that's a typical interface of Salesforce, and through the web-based interface you are able to keep track of all the activities of the customers and their engagement, and the different things related to the finance and the person who's responsible, when was the call received, and all those things. So it's a one-stop solution for that. Now we have a concept in software as a service which is called multi-tenancy. Multi-tenancy is that same application will be used by different customers, but their data would be segregated by one another. There are lots of technologies that they are doing it to do that. Either they are maintaining different databases, or the data of one customer will be encrypted, and the other person will not be able to get any access to the data of the other customer. Just like there are different clients, client number 1, 2, 3, and 4, data of each of these customers which will be maintained separately in the cloud. SaaS applications are offered multi-tenant solutions, that is, within the cloud, 2 or more companies may share the same server resources depending on their size, fee, and the customers may also share database resources. So they'll be sharing the database resources, but the data of each and every customer would be maintained in a well-defined manner, so that no one can access resources of the other one. Further, depending on the SaaS provider, customizing a multi-tenant solution may be difficult or expensive, or may be impossible. It depends. If you have certain things to be taken care of on premises, for example, if you want to keep your own database, or your customers shall be authenticated using your own Active Directory, you'll have to have a combination of it, that the application will be in the cloud, but it would be coming to your organization for getting the authentication realm by using Microsoft Azure services or any other solutions like that. Now they are giving you an example of another Taleo HR, which is a customer relationship management software, and as you can see, all tasks and everything is taken care of by a web-based interface or an application. Now we'll see different open SaaS solutions. The applications programs that run as SaaS solutions in the cloud were developed using specific programming language and were designed to run on specific operating systems using a specific database management system. An open SaaS solution is an SaaS application created using open source programming language and designed to run on open source operating systems and databases. So we have a different flavor of applications which are either publicly available, or they are premium services which are provided by giants like Microsoft, Google, and rest of the other services. So the applications are developed based on the platforms and the kind of solutions that you need. Sometimes it happens that you need a web-based application. Most of the employees are using the customer relationship management, etc., using the platforms, different statistics, charts, and other things which are well fit for the computers itself. The applications are designed accordingly. If they are working on applications, for example, delivery services for the food and other things, it would require the GPS location, it would require the customer details, the current location, and all those things. So those kind of applications will be developed for the mobile-based platforms, where they'll be able to link to the main website and the application so that they can find the location and rest of the details about the customers and the delivery routes, etc. Now many customers believe that if a solution is open source, it will be easier for them to move the data to a different application in future if the current solution fails to meet their needs. Because the customers do not own the SaaS software, they'll not be able to move the application itself. Now they are trying to explain it that for every platform, if you are using Google Cloud Services, or you're using Amazon Web Services, or if you are using Microsoft Azure Cloud, every cloud service provider has provided a toolkit for their customers to develop application using the toolkit which is available on their platform only. So if you have developed certain applications using APIs of Google in order to authenticate the users and in order to get rest of the benefit which is provided by the toolkit of Microsoft, if you want to shift that application to Amazon, or you want to shift that to Microsoft Azure services, of course those things will not be available there. So sometimes it becomes very difficult for you to shift from one cloud service provider to another one. So that's why it's very important to know that before shifting your applications, if they are critical, or if you can easily migrate it to any other service provider. Now, customers who are concerned about moving their data in the future should consider an open source provider. They said most SaaS solutions open source are not provided a way for customers to export their data if the need arises. So, service providers which are allowing you to host your applications which are built on open source systems so that you can easily shift it from one platform to another. Now we have different examples of it. For example, WebEx is another one which is from Cisco, and it helps us in having online collaboration and meetings, etc., where you can have all the annotations on the screen, you can share your documents, files, and video conferencing, etc. Now we are talking about SaaS-based backups. Businesses often rely on the process known as cloud-based co-location to duplicate their company resources at a remote site. If fire, theft, or some other disaster occurs, the business significantly reduces its risk of data loss. Now that's a typical process whenever we are setting up a virtual instance in the cloud. For example, Amazon Web Services, it would ask us the primary location and the co-location, and you'll have to choose it yourself. For example, the primary location could be any of the data center which is nearby your country, so you'll select that as the primary one. The secondary one cannot be in the same geographical location or in the same continent, so you'll have to choose a different location, which is, for example, in Africa somewhere, or in Asia if you are working in North America as your primary location. So it helps you maintaining your backups at two different locations, sometimes due to internet access problems or fiber links and their connectivity issues. If it is affected, at least the other area where you are maintaining the backup of your business shall be up and running. So if your business goes down on the primary location, they'll transfer the services to the secondary location so that your customers don't feel any difference in the services at all. Now understand that whenever they are having or maintaining a co-location of your business which is running from the primary location, they are constantly maintaining the backup of the data which is being copied on the primary location will be replicated to the secondary location as well. Now most users-based computers books tell users that they should perform regular disk or file backup operations. That's a normal thing, that whenever we are talking about a conventional IT infrastructure or the data center operations, it's always recommended to maintain the backup of your systems on regular intervals. However, because the process is generally time consuming, most users fail to back up their files on regular basis. Worse yet, users do not perform backups, often store the copies within the same facility, etc. The backup face the same risk of the original data. So that's a typical problem that we have in the organizations, that if we are maintaining a backup, maybe we'll maintain the same backup somewhere in the same building, or maybe a couple of kilometers away from your primary location. But most of the cases, if the backup is in the same building, and God forbid if there is any earthquake or fire or any kind of natural disasters which would affect the main data center, it would destroy the backup as well. That's why people are moving towards maintaining the backups in the cloud as well. Now, to provide users and companies with the backup solution, many SaaS providers have emerged to backup the user data files to redundant storage facilities that reside within the cloud. So the cloud service providers, they are maintaining it in the cloud. Even for the customers, we have lots of applications like Dropbox, etc., which maintains or constantly keeps on maintaining the backup of the files that you want to back up. Automatically it would be synchronized on their servers. Now we'll see the cloud-based backup, how it works. There is a storage that you'll purchase online, and all the users will be able to back up their files over there. Now again, the same mechanism is there as well. If your organization have purchased certain storage in the cloud, all users of the same organization will be able to avail the storage facility which is available in the cloud in order to store their files comfortably, which can be accessed from their office or even if they are traveling. Now, leveraging the cloud mashups is many companies need a variety of SaaS solutions. Depending on the various solution providers, the company may create a mashup collection of services joined to create an overall solution. So they'll have a completely different setup where they'll combine all the solutions by different cloud service providers like HR solutions, project management solutions, payroll solutions. Everything is hosted in the cloud, whereas the end customer will be able to access all those things from the web-based interface. Further, developers categorize the mashups as web-based or server-based. In a web-based mashup, the user browser, perhaps a JavaScript, etc., combines the various content sources to create a unified display. So it would collect the data from HR, payroll, project management, and it would get all the details from that different solutions that they have in a nicely presented web-based interface, so that you can play with the data and can make decisions based on that. In server-based mashups, an application running on the server combines the data so that you can have a unified access on that. Now we'll understand the service-oriented architecture, which is SOA. Most the SaaS solutions provide complete solution, meaning the application that can be used within a web browser. For example, Salesforce provides web application for the customer relationship management. It's completely web-based. TurboTax provides a web application for filing your taxes. QuickBooks provide a web application again for business accounting, etc. Now, beyond computing a complete application with a user interface, many solutions offer specific services that developers can access across the web for within the programs they create. Developers refer to these services as the web services. So all services that you need or part of the services that you can add to your current setup will be completely cloud-based. So if you are using a web-based student registration system, you'll purchase the registration system that you'll be using for a certain period of time. Later, if you'll find out that no, we need a finance module also, you'll purchase the finance module from the same software as a service provider, and they'll merge or they'll add that module to your current setup. You don't have to worry about any integration or anything. It would automatically start getting the data of your students and will be able to perform all those financial calculations on that. Then we have an example of Microsoft Office as Microsoft Office 365, which is yet another example of software as a service. Now, for as long as most can remember, computer users have made extensive use of Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. Traditionally, users had to purchase and install the Office, relatively inexpensive investment. Then users had to keep installing updates, software, and became available to Microsoft. Now, businesses in turn would normally license Office for each of their employees. So we all remember that we used to purchase Microsoft Office before. Then it was a process of installing it on your computer. Then you had to activate it, purchase the license key for it. If you are a student, if it's a standard license or an enterprise license, and then the other things which were required, then we were required to install the updates and all those other things. So it was a headache. Now, since the internet is quite stable these days and it's quite powerful as well, where we can easily get a high-speed internet connection at fairly low rate, you can rely on the cloud-based services, where most of the services that you are availing from Microsoft will be available in the cloud. You don't need to install those services. You'll be able to access those services and run those services from the cloud-based solutions. With the advent of the cloud reduces cost, may user began to use the products such as OpenOffice. Or OpenOffice is a free OpenOffice compatible solution. Today, millions of users have found Google Docs, which can be used from the computers on or a compelling tool. Now, still an add-on to the cloud-based service provider is, for example, if you are working on Microsoft Excel sheets, or you can have Google Sheets as well, multiple users can simultaneously work on the same Excel sheet, which is still not possible if you have installed an instance of Microsoft Office on your computer. You would require a cloud-based solution if you want different customers to work on an Excel sheet simultaneously, and you can see the changes, who's working on it, and what are the changes made by which customer. To meet the user demands and to match the competitor offerings, Microsoft released in Office 365 a pay-by-month subscription to the Office applications that you can use online. For academic institutions, Microsoft has been generous enough to provide them lots of services for free, which are required for academic purposes. Now here they are just giving you a interface of Microsoft Office 365 and different features which are available with them. Now, Office 365 in the cloud, using the 365 users can access and edit their documents from the computers as well as many handheld devices. If needed, user can save the documents to the local devices. Now you have an option, you can access it in the cloud, you can save the document in the cloud, or you can download it from the cloud so that you can maintain a copy of it on your device as well, whether you are using any handheld device or you are using a laptop or a computer or tablet. Regardless, it would be available to you without any as such installation other than the application which is required to access these services. Further, because Office 365 documents are cloud-based, users and teams can easily collaborate and share the documents. So now with the help of that, we have another protection for the documents or the confidential things, that it cannot be leaked out to any other person, or it cannot leak the premises without being properly checked, because we have data loss prevention mechanisms on the cloud-based services where we can define that these things are confidential or highly confidential. So even if a user would by mistake try to share a file which is confidential, the system would stop it over there. Now, web services are not web applications. For example, a software as a service will be accessed by a user using a web-based interface, or an application would be working in collaboration with the web server, etc. Now we have service-oriented architecture, which is a web service or application programming interface. We call them as APIs also. Now, whenever we talk about service-oriented architecture, it's an application development methodology with which developers create solutions by integrating one or more web services. Now, think of a web service as a function or subroutine a program can call to accomplish a specific task. When the program is running on one computer, it calls a web service, or a message possibly containing the parameters values is sent across the network on the internet to the computer hosting or the web service provider. This in turn performs a processing and normally returns the result to the caller. In the same scenario, if you will see that if you want to query a price for a stock or anything, or an item which is available in the warehouse, it would check the warehouse for the current product inventory levels. It would get real-time road or weather conditions, etc. through API. It can check the airline flight and departure information. As you can see, there are lots of websites through which you can purchase the tickets. Now, not all of them are officially recognized or working with those carriers, but they are using the APIs which are given out by these service providers or the aviation companies to use them in order to get the updated details about the pricing, about the flights, their schedules, and rest of the things. Now, purchase a product or a service, or can perform the credit card processing information, etc. Now, calling for a web service or a code, some developers, as I told you, refer to the web services. They use the APIs, for example, Amazon and eBay, etc. For example, provide API that programmers can use to purchase the products from across the web, and using the programs that they create. For example, your application would send instructions or the web service call or instructions to the web service with the parameters that certain user shall be granted an access. As you might have seen, if you are applying for jobs on lots of websites, they have different kind of authentication mechanisms available. You can either authenticate yourself through your Facebook account or your Google account or your LinkedIn account. So the LinkedIn, Google or Facebook is not sharing a username and password with the application, but they are only providing an authentication mechanism with the help of which the customer would go to their servers, it would be authenticated, and then he'll be allowed to access those services. So that was a very brief session on software as a service. That's it for today. Thank you very much.